Hi out there, this is El Nino speaking. Um, I'm a dedicated melee player, been so for years. Actually, been playing it since early beta. And there's been a lot of talk about Champion in this upcoming patch, uh, Secrets of the Atlas 3.26. And I wanted to give my thoughts on how Champion compares to Slayer in regards to melee, because there's a lot of things going for the updated champion, but it might not be as good as people are actually talking about. But we'll get into that in a bit. Um, as I mentioned earlier, I'm a dedicated melee player. In 3.25, I took a Shield Crush Slayer, and by day 5 and onwards, I was exclusively farming tier 17 maps. I have like a playlist of the progression day by day if you should be interested in seeing that. So I'll put a link to that playlist here in the bottom. But let's get into the meat of this little thing here. I will be evaluating on early league, setup cost, and scaling. These are the three parameters I'll be looking into when I'm comparing the two ascendancies. But let's have a look at things here. So Slayer is the first stuff. I'll just hide this over here. I need to show it. So we have the first note here, which is impact. It says 50% increased global accuracy rating. There's some melee strike range. 5% increased area effect per enemy killed recently. So when you are mapping, you will always have this 50%. And then the travel note here, it gives you an additional 10% AoE. So it's actually 60% increased area you get from this when mapping, and when you're bossing, well, it doesn't matter because you're close to it. And then we have the main draw here, which is 15% more melee damage to enemies based on proximity. Of course, if you're more or less off-screening things, you won't get the 15% more, but on single targets, which you're honing in on, you will always have the 15% more. So how does that compare to Champion? Well, if we take Worthy Foe up here, then it says taunt on hit. I'll get back to that in a second. Then we have enemies taunted by you take 15% increased damage. That is roughly the same value as the 15% more. It is a little bit different. More is a multiplier whenever you have it. Increased damage is kind of like a more multiplier because it is a very rare modifier that enemies take increased damage. But if you have, say, 3 times this, it wouldn't be 15% more, 15% more, 15% more. It would be 45% increased damage, so 45% more. So the more you get of these modifiers, the less impact they have. They are additive in that way. But yeah. Then it says enemies taunted by you cannot evade attacks, which is of course better. It's not the same as 50% increased accuracy rating. So whenever you hit something, you have 100% accuracy all the time. This is good when it comes to again, boss fights, and if you have like some super tanky rares with a lot of evasion, as soon as you've taunted them, then they cannot evade anymore. So it's like there is some upside to this, and there's also something about the crit calculation. But when you are at the end game, you should be pretty close to 100% hit rate anyway. At least you should aim towards that, so you don't get too much from this. So then there's the taunt on hit, which could be potentially very strong in the aspect of keeping mercenaries alive in the new league. Because if you taunt something, then they have to target you. AoEs and like extra projectiles and stuff will still hit the mercenaries, but you will be the main target. So that could be quite a draw towards that if mercenaries are difficult to keep alive. But when it comes to just taking a single skill, it could be Shield Crush, it could be a Slam, it could be different things, then I have to give the point to Slayer in this one, simply because you basically have 60% increased AoE, which is a very valuable stat in this regard. Next one, Brutal Fervor, is it says 100% increased maximum recovery per life leech. Life leech effects are not removed when unreserved life is filled. 10% reduced damage taken while leeching. So Brutal Fervor is here. Let's do it like this. And let's skip the first one for now. It just makes your life leech better. But life leech effects are not removed when unreserved life is filled. This means that you basically have a healing potion going on you all the time, which is an extremely convenient effect to have. And I believe leech effects, they last for 4 seconds. So if you hit something, then for the next 4 seconds, you'll have this effect going on you. Then there's reduced damage taken while leeching. This is a super strong defensive layer. And also so if you put that with the flask thing, it combines into a very, very solid amount of sustain. If we compare it to Fortitude here, that is, let's see, it's this one over here from the champion. Nearby allies count as having fortification equal to yours. That is really good for the mercenary part again. And then the big one is you have maximum fortification. The maximum fortification is extremely strong because you don't need to stack it up, and Fortify has you need to apply hits which are large enough in order to generate Fortify in the first place, and then you need to refresh them. Well, you need to get new ones because you can't refresh the amount of Fortified that you have. So always being on maximum fortification is huge. And there's also another upside to it. If you're going Slayer, then you either have to skill into the Fortification Mastery, which applies fortification on hit, or you have to use a support gem. If you use a support gem, then this is actually I think it's like 10 to 15% more, because it allows you to use a different and better damage scaling support gem. So if we compare these two, Brutal Fervor is very strong, but Fortitude is so good. Another note here is that, well, you can of course get the fortification on the Slayer as well, and then you have the 10% reduced damage taken on top of it, which is good. So say you have like a base, and then you have like 20 Fortify, and then plus 10 over here. That is of course a very good defensive layer, but the way things work regarding damage reduction is that if you have, say, let's go over here. So if you have 10% damage reduction and 10%, so let's say you have this one over here, and then you have 45. That is not 20%. It translates into, instead, like you have first the 10. If you take 100 damage, then you reduce with the first 10. So that means you have 90. And then the next 10 goes in, and that means you take 10% less from that, and then you're at 81. Whereas if you have, say, instead of having two different defensive layers like this, if you have 20% reduction, that would just mean that you only take 80%. So in this way, the more fortification you stack, the better it becomes. And that's an important little extra notion to keep in mind. But of course, if you can, let me see, like this. Of course, if you can get the maximum fortification on this layer, and then you get the 10% reduced damage on top, that's just super, super strong. But this one is, Fortitude is better, and it scales better. Then we have Bane of Legends. Here, it is placed here on the Slayer. It is generic damage, which is why I've still put it into the core mapping out of the character. 10% more damage if you're killed recently. That's good for mapping. 20% more damage with hits and aimlets against unique enemies. This makes it a really, really good bosser. Just getting 20% more damage all the time is very convenient, and we will be doing some new bossing here in the new league. And then there is a very convenient modifier in the cannot take reflected physical damage. Oh, that was a bad marking. This makes it really easy to just fill out your atlas, because there are some modifiers that you don't have to care about, like Fist Reflect doesn't do anything, and when you want to do the Feared, you can run Ubert's and just completely ignore the damage reflection that she has. Then it's kind of difficult to compare here, but if we go in like early league at first, this Bane of Legends is very strong compared to, well, say Unstoppable, because this is like it's defense and it's offense, but you will only have 26 fortify early in the league. No more than that. It's too difficult to attain. I'll get back to that in a second. And this is where you start getting the more damage. Then you have the other things which you could compare the damage of Bane of Legends with. It is Master of Metal. If you go Impale, if you use this one, then you have +1 Impale. You can get +1 from the tree, and then you could get an additional 2 if you use Pride and use a Watcher's Eye for it, and that is 9 potential stacks of Impale, and then this just goes through the roof and becomes very, very potent. You need to stack it up, of course, but this is super strong for bossing. So it is comparable, but this puts limits to the build. Like, you have to be pure physical, and you have to be Impale, and you need to stack up. So it's like, put a question mark on it. Inspirational, sorry, increased effective non-curse auras from your skills. If you have a good amount of auras, this could be very good, but it is a kind of different setup. And then there is the First to Strike, Last to Fall, which gives you Intimidate. That is 10% more. Enemies take 10% increased damage, so I think it is the same thing as this one up here, but I'm not quite sure. It could also be more. I'm a little unsure about it. But the point is, it is 10% increased damage, more damage. And then you have Adrenaline, which is a very, very strong buff, but you also need to prog it, which can be a little bit annoying. So this is strong. It's very, very good to getting through the campaign because you get some movement speed and 100% increased damage, and I think it's 25% increased movement speed, 25% increased attack and cast speed, and then 100% increased damage. So that's very beneficial, but you also need to prog it, and you only have it for 20 seconds, and then you have to reprog it again, which can be a little bit annoying if you're not familiar with how to do it. So I'll put a question mark here. I'm not really sure which is the better of these. And again, next in line here is also all of these notes here. They are like, you only have to like go, like you can go. These are the first notes here, so it's not like you have to go into a branch. Then Headsman. This is extremely strong on the Slayer, and it is a node which is hidden behind Bane of Legends. This gives you super culling, which means that you only have to, whenever an enemy has less than 20% life, let's see, so when they'll, if you hit a boss and it goes down to like 19% of their health, they just straight up die. So this is 20% more damage, kinda. And then you also get increased attack speed when you kill a rare unique enemy. It's okay. It's not that big a thing, but it is something. But then you have a really big one, which is 10% increased movement speed whenever you kill an enemy. So this is super good for mapping. It is one of the stronger nodes on Duelist, and a lot of people will try and steal it with Forbidden Duels eventually. So this is a really strong one. These over here, they are, let's put them at conditional. Or into unknown territory. Then I also have like a wildcard here in Masterful Form, but because Ralakesh has been changed, this Masterful Form used to be the most potent, it's placed here, node on Slayer, but because the change of Ralakesh, so you don't have all of your maximum charges all the time, you can only get one type of it, it's a little bit different. So this one takes work. let's put that takes work. But it is still extremely strong if you can make it work. But it will, of course, since it's a node down here, it will not enable. Well, it will remove the headsman node over here. So, yeah, it's some nodes on here. So they have some pointers here and there. But I wanted to talk about scaling and setup cost, because this I've been talking about here, this is the early stages of the league, and I can quite confidently say that Slayer is the better call in the early league. Setup cost, Slayer is cheap, is equal cheap, champion equal expensive. And why is that? Well, the thing is, I have some uniques placed over here. This node here, Unstoppable, let's see if I can give a decent marking of this, is perhaps, and well, along with 45 of course, Fortitude, is the strongest node on any duelist, I'll argue, because of the defensive layer, which you can scale by different means. You can use Perseverance. That's an obvious choice. The belt, which gives you increased attack based on the lowest amount that you have of armor and evasion. So you have like 30,000 evasion and 40,000 armor. Then you'll get increased attack damage based on the 30,000 evasion. And then you have the increased attack speed per fortification above 20. And the above 20 is the key here, because the default is 20. Then you can get to 26 through the passive tree. And then if you take plus 6, that means 6 times 3 is 18% more armor and evasion, which is not nothing, but it's not that good. And 18% increased attack speed, it's something, but it's not that much. So we need to scale stuff. The most obvious choice is to use the gloves here called the Celestial Brace. They can roll 1 to 10 maximum fortification. So I'll put it at 10, but you can also go to 12 because we get a new like runic masteries, which reduces the impact from your boots by 20%, but then you get 20% increased effect from your gloves. So you can get 10 to 12 within reason. Let's say plus 10 to 20. Then you have Replica Badge of the Brotherhood, which takes your maximum endurance charges and makes them equal to your maximum frenzy charges. This means that you need to stack frenzy. And stacking frenzy is notoriously expensive. If you just take the passive tree, you can get 6 as a default. But then the problems start arising. If you want a corruption for +1, you need to get it on your gloves. And getting a perfect roll with 10 and plus frenzy on these, I will expect that to be probably like a mirror, or at least like several hundred divines in the new league because of how strong this is. So it's going to be ridiculously expensive, and you are likely not going to get it. If you stack frenzy rings, they are also really expensive. But say you get everything done, you can get like 6 to 10. But this is like, the 10 is unrealistic. So I'll go with 6, and I'll also go with 12. Because you can divine them up and use the mastery. Then Lethal Pride it's not difficult to get one with 2, plus 2 to fortify, and I believe you can get 4. That's the highest number you can get from it, but you'll probably get 2. So let's say 12, 6, and 2. All in all, that is plus 20. You can reliably get this, and then so that gives you 46 total. 46 times this over here. Now we are absolutely talking, because now we're 26 above. So 26, that is 78. 78% more. So it's armor and evasion. And then you have 78% attack speed. And then because of the Celestial Brace also gives you increased attack speed per fortification, and you have 46. That means, let me just do some quick math here, so E4, that is 124. And that is ridiculous. And you can attain that, and then everything you get about that is just stupid, strong. But these are not accessible on early league stock. The Celestial Brace comes from Exarch alone, and they'll be, I don't believe they will be, like an uncorrupted pair will be less than 10 divines within the first week. Replica Badge of the Brotherhood is the same rarity tier as Replica Alberne's Warpath, and those boots usually go between like 20, 30 divines up to like 60 divines within the first couple of weeks of a league. So let's say you can get like these for 10 div. That might have been, let's say, and like just 10 to 20 for these. This one here, it's all predicted between 20 to 60 div. And this one down here, the Lethal Pride, because fortification stack it's so powerful, but it's also going to be very sought after. Let's put it at, I don't know, 5 to 15 divs, maybe 10. But if we just add these numbers together, best case scenario, you're looking at 35 divines to get the base numbers going, and it could go way higher. So scaling, that is absolutely champion. Wow, I can't even spell anymore. So champion has the highest ceiling, which means that once you have accumulated some knowledge, I will go with Slayer initially. So this is going to be my starter. And then I will, when I've accumulated enough wealth, I will try and transition into champion and see how that goes. So what should your league start with? If you're going melee and you are AoE based, so AoE equals Slayer, because of you get the 60% from impact. If you go projectile attacks, then you don't benefit as much from Slayer, and then you can probably go champion on that one because of like the worth of over here. And then regarding Merc, keeping Mercs alive, probably also champion because of the stuff. So all in all, I hope this gave some insight on how you can compare these two kind of similar ascendancies, but they're also vastly different. So Slayer is easy to get going, more generic. Champion is a specialist, and it's going to be more expensive getting online, but the ceiling is very, very high on that one. So thanks for listening to my little talk here, and have a league launch. Oh, by the way, I almost forgot. After this one, I'll be making an update to Shield Crush and how I plan to league started in 3.26. So if you're interested in that, then check back in a couple of hours from this video has been posted. So yeah. Anyway, have a good one.